Welcome to the Duncan Duo Radio Show, hosted by Andrew Duncan, the official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning. As Tampa Bay's top-selling real estate team with over $3 billion in sales and thousands of homes closed. Sell your home with ease, guaranteed in 14 days or they'll buy it. Visit theduncanduo.com. Here's your host, Andrew Duncan.
Hello, Tampa Bay real estate for another week at the Duncan Duo. When we aren't on air for all of our social channels, make sure to follow us to get all of the updates. And I would say always a lot of lightning giveaways and ticket giveaways and different things on all of our social media, but there aren't going to be any more of those this year, but we've always got next year. I just posted the other day on my Facebook page that we just had the 11th anniversary of our partnership with the Lightning, so happy to be partnered with them, even if they didn't pull it off this year. And we have our appreciation event coming up at the arena. We're working on dates now. It's going to be over the summer. It's going to be a little different event than what we've done in the past. We've typically done the ice skating at the arena with food and different entertainment and giveaways. And this year we're actually going to do a movie theme night and locker room tours, which I think is probably going to be cool for a lot of our clients and their kids that have always kind of wanted to walk by Kucherov or Hedman or Vassey's locker and kind of see what the Lightning locker room looks like. So we'll have more news on that coming soon, but it should be sometime in June or July. So I was talking to a client this week, a repeat client that's worked with me a few times, and it reminded me of something that I think always happens around like March, April, and even into May when it comes to like inexperienced agents or investors that are trying to get a deal and how properties are comped. So in Tampa Bay, the two worst months of the year typically for both our median and average sale price and home sales are January and February. So in March, April, and May, what ends up happening is people will sometimes get investor offers that will try and capitalize on the fact that in January and February there's lower sales, lower prices, and the comps typically are going to be lower as well. And sometimes those are the desperate people that didn't get their home sold last year and they finally cut the price. And maybe a home was on the market. Whenever I'm looking at comps and I see a home was on the market for 400 days, I tend to discount it or try not to include it because it's very likely that home was overpriced or had something wrong with it from the very beginning, and then they chased the market before they finally got realistic that it would have sold for more. But just like we do on social media, people want social gratification. So if a home has been on the market a certain period of time, it ends up selling for less and gets a lower offer. So it isn't necessarily a condition of the market. It's more a condition of, the stigmatizing that can happen with those properties. Well, anyway, what ends up happening is those comps end up showing lower in January and February. And then, either inexperienced agents that haven't been around for 22 years like I have, or predatory investors come in and say, hey, in March, April, and May, because they know there's going to be a run up on price in June and July, historically our highest months with the highest prices, they try and scoop up properties using the comps from January and February, and then they want to make the VIG. So an experienced agent like on our team, like you can get at DuncanDuo.com, is gonna discount that to an extent. They're gonna understand that some of those comps aren't as relevant as maybe a December or November comp, and certainly give some guidance to the fact that homes sell for more money pretty much every year in Tampa Bay, April, May, June, July, compared to, January, February. So anyway, I was talking to this client and he said, hey, look, I've got this neighbor. They want to buy my house. They've offered me 510. And if I looked at the comps that the neighbor tried to use to justify the 510, I could see the neighbor using that, the smart neighbor that owns a lot of real estate, that's clearly trying to get a good deal, that's trying to take advantage of my client. I could see where they could make the case, and they could use that. But then when I looked at the comps, it was like, okay, this one doesn't have a pool. This one looks terrible on the inside compared to my client's house. They were both on the market like 400 days. This is a turnkey, like phenomenal house in a great neighborhood with a beautiful pool. And, when I looked at comps from, the fourth quarter of last year, it supported a much higher price. And I know that will happen again in, April, May, and June. And so I gave the client the advice like, hey, look, they're wrong. They're using this to try and take advantage. You can definitely get more money for that house based on the condition and what's going on in the market. So whenever you are looking at comps and you're thinking about hiring an agent, that's something to pay attention to. And whenever someone's presenting an investor offer to you and they're presenting the comps to try and make their case, go deeper and go to a deeper dive with the data. Look at the data. And historically, like I said, if comps from January and February are the only thing that someone uses to sell a home in March or April, they may undersell their property, or they may end up, getting a lowball investor offer that they take, or they may get taken advantage of. What I can say, though, is that an experienced agent, a really good agent that is negotiating to do a lot of business, that doesn't need that one particular transaction, okay? I don't believe with the right strategy that you can underprice a house, okay? Again, with the right strategy. Are there inexperienced agents that underprice a house and sell it too fast and don't know how to negotiate and don't know how to play the game? Of course there are. But the reason why I say you can't underprice a house is it's because the market determines the price. Not me, not you, not a buyer, not a seller. It's the market. The market tells us what something's worth. It's like the stock market. If you've got a stock that the NASDAQ says it's worth $62 a share and you put it out there at $70 a share, you put a limit order on it, nobody's buying it. Okay. It's the same thing with real estate. If the market is spitting out $62, for that share, you got to put it on there at 62, maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe you can get it. Maybe you can put a, little bit of a bump on it to hope that the market responds in your favor or sees something unique about your house. So what I mean by I don't believe a good experienced agent that knows how to market and negotiate can't undersell a house. Here's what I mean. Consumers, and especially with AI, have never had more data about real estate than they have right now. Okay. They have the data. They get to see the properties. The MLS isn't the gatekeeper anymore. The realtors aren't the gatekeeper anymore. All the data is public. Okay. The majority of it that matters. So if a home goes on the market that is heavily supported at $350,000 and you put a house on the market for $300,000, what's going to happen? Okay. You're going to have a bidding war. Okay. And the price is going to get bid up almost like in an unofficial auction, as long as the agent doesn't press the seller to take the first offer and, requests within the MLS that the seller agrees to a couple of days to respond to offers. If you underprice something, people are going to have a frenzy towards it. Right. And you can look at retail for the perfect understanding of how this works. If you think about Best Buy or Walmart on Black Friday, okay, and they put out the $300 laptop or $200, okay, what happens? People are flying towards those laptops and they're gone. And then some of those people are taking those $200 laptops and they're putting them on Craigslist or eBay or something else, and they're selling them for more than what they bought them for because they bought them under market, okay? It's the same thing with real estate. So you want the opportunity to let those people pile on. So there's a couple different ways you can price a house if you want to move it. If you're pricing it at retail where the comps are supported, it's going to sell. It's just going to sell in an average time frame, okay? And in our market, depending on the neighborhood, that could be 60 to 80 to 100 days. In some, it's a little quicker. I mean, it could really be 30 to 100 days, depending on what's going on in a particular neighborhood. So that's how long it's going to take for you to get an offer if you price it at what the market supports and what the comps support. If you price it above that number, it's going to take longer because you're either going to end up having to reduce, right? You have to reduce the price, or market conditions are going to have to respond in a favor to make your price more attractive. So you're on the market for 6 months and you finally sell because you did a price reduction and you finally got, the price to where it needed to be at the beginning where it would have sold sooner. Or the market improves and sees prices rise, and then your home gets accepted and sold in 6 months. Now, when you price it aggressively, so not at market, maybe below or slightly below market, you get a frenzy that chases your house. So you are in the driver's seat and you, in essence, are negotiating up instead of negotiating down. There's no secret. Look, I'm a big car guy. If anyone follows me on social media, it's not hard to figure out. I have a car collection. I'm a car junkie. I always have been. And I notice all the time at these auction houses that cars sell for more than what I thought they were worth. And the reason is because they start them at $1, and then it gets bid up, and then you get people competing against each other. The same thing can happen in real estate, but it's all about the setup. It doesn't happen if you overprice it. It doesn't happen if you price it at market value. It happens when you think like a marketer and you think like an auction house and you say, I want to get the price as high as I can. It's properly marketed. It's got great photos. It's got great videos. And what is the way that you do that? You take your $500,000 house and you price it at $450,000, and then you get a frenzy. And if you'd have priced it at $500,000, you probably would have sold a few percentage points off of asking because that's the norm, and it would have taken 100 days. You'd eaten 75 days, 60 days. Who knows? It depends on the neighborhood. And you'd eat a few mortgage payments. You'd eat your taxes. You'd eat a couple months of HOAs. Or you price it on the aggressive side and you say, I'm going to price my $500,000 house at $450,000. You end up getting the market number, probably pretty close to the same number, but you control terms. You may not pay as much in concessions. You're going to make it happen quicker, so you are in control of the situation, and you're not going to eat those mortgage payments and tax payments. Truthfully, it is a better way to market real estate. So for most sellers, the problem is that most sellers don't want to take the reality pill. They want to stay in unicorn fairy tale fantasy land and think their home is worth more than everyone else's. But if you truly want the quickest sale and the true most net dollars in your pocket after all expenses, pricing and aggressive is the way to go. And I believe it drives the price up. However, that being said, there are a lot of agents that don't know how to navigate through that and don't have the experience of it. So underpricing can cause sellers to undersell when it's an agent that isn't prepared, that doesn't know how to use the strategy, that doesn't know how to be patient, that needs a deal, and is going to try everything they can to convince you to take that first offer because they need a commission check. That's not my agents. I got the best agents, in the area. I have agents that have sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses, that have all the at-bats, that know how to negotiate, that have several closings a month, so they don't have to convince you to do something because they need your check. They're convincing you to do something because it's in your best interest. So hopefully that makes sense, but I think there's a lot of misnomers out there about how to price real estate, and I hear this all the time, people saying things like, well, you guys are just going to underprice the house, and it's not possible if the negotiation is done properly, because it's the market that determines whether that number is accurate or not. I do, however, see lots of sellers be on the market for a year plus because they overpriced it, and then they've eaten mortgage payments and taxes and insurance for all of that time. And then finally they get a number that if they'd have got to that number a year ago, they wouldn't have eaten all that expense. They would have been in more control. They probably would have gotten a better price because it's natural human behavior. If everyone is passing on something, people think they can get a better deal and they're going to lowball. If everyone is chasing something, they get excited about it and they want to compete because they don't want to lose it to someone else. People are afraid more of the fear of losing something than the excitement of getting it. So hopefully that helps with you pricing your home. If you're a home seller out there, we'd love to help you. Again, DuncanDuo.com. Get an instant cash offer. Talk to our AI chatbot. Talk to an agent on our team. It's your choice, however you want to communicate with us. Again, at DuncanDuo.com. We'll be back after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show.
Back to the Duncan Duo Radio Show, the official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Top team in Tampa Bay, over 3 billion sold and counting. Now your host, Andrew Duncan.
So back here talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market at the Duncan Duo. Whenever we're not on air, for all of your real estate updates, follow us. We're going to put out properties. We're going to talk about neighborhoods. We're going to put stuff from the radio show on there. And DuncanDuo.com for an instant cash offer on your house. So I talked in the first segment about how to price your home as a seller and how there's a mistake a lot of people make in overpricing their house or hiring an agent that is an experience on how to navigate almost like an unofficial auction to create massive demand for your house. But what I want to talk about next is Tampa is one of America's top buyer-friendly real estate markets for 2026. We ranked 9th. And so the statistics and the data say that Tampa real estate is a great deal for home buyers. But there are a lot of people still sitting on the fence because they think interest rates are high. And they are high compared to COVID, right? COVID, this is one of my new favorite words, unicorn fairy tale fantasy land. That's what I like to call it when it comes to real estate. COVID isn't coming back. We're not going to see 2% interest rates again. If you keep holding out for that, you're going to lose net worth, you're going to lose wealth, and you're going to lose out on equity appreciation, as well as just being in the home that you want to be in and quality of life. It's not coming back, okay? Could we get to interest rates in the 4s? Maybe, okay? But by then, prices are going to rise, okay? We're already starting to see a turn in the market. I see it in my business. I can feel the energy coming back. And, you know, all this data coming out about how Tampa's a great buyer market. I want to kind of explain a dynamic for you really quickly. Well, first off, real estate is the slowest moving market that exists. So the trough, kind of the downturn, so to speak, lasts longer than like the stock market. If you look at the stock market, it responds much more quickly to energy, to news, to emotion, to sensational stories, to fear, right? It is much different than real estate, but it still is a market, so it has some similarities. If you saw after the Iran war started, the stock market absolutely got pummeled, okay? Dropped to its lowest in a long time. That was a generational buying opportunity. You get a few of those a year, and everyone that bought stock around that time has made phenomenal returns, okay? But they had a small window to act, okay? Real estate's the same way, but you have a longer window, and we're in the middle of that right now. We're in the middle of that trough. So, you know, every doomer that's out there saying like, oh, the market's going to crash. No, it's not. The federal government will prevent that from happening because of politics and because they don't want to have foreclosures, because foreclosures wreck communities, pull everyone's value down, make it harder for banks to make money, make it harder for communities to get taxes. They do everything they possibly can to avoid foreclosures. Okay. It's fixed, right? It's not crashing. The second part of that is that we have some generational type things happening in Florida that will be a massive boom for real estate over the next 10 years. If you're buying real estate, you have to buy it for the long term. And if you're buying it for the long term, the interest rate isn't as relevant, okay, as you might think that it is, because you can change your interest rate, all right? You can't change your price. So when interest rates drop, and they will, okay, when interest rates drop, we're going to see AI productivity improve. We're going to see inflation get controlled. The Iran war is going to get over. Oil is going to keep dropping. When interest rates drop, you're going to see this surge. And our average sell price in our market is going to go from 500 to 600 probably pretty quickly. That gap for the average buyer, let's call it 100 grand. That's what you're leaving on the table if you wait for interest rates to drop, because prices are going to rise. And then you're going to think, oh, I did great because interest rates dropped and now I'm buying. What you should have done is bought when the price was low and then redid your interest rate, eaten it for a couple years or a year. Maybe you don't go to Starbucks as much. Maybe you look for ways to make it happen. And look, I understand there are people out there that can't do it, okay? And I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ones that can do it. You're going to miss out on a generational opportunity because we're going to see interest rates drop. We're going to see massive relief on property taxes. All the weather data looks like the hurricane season is going to be light this year. Our real estate market is on the cusp of a massive swing upward over the next year or two, in my opinion, because of these indicators. And you've got massive wealth moving to our area. You've got people from New York and California that are tired of the politics out there. They're tired of the taxes, and they're moving. Okay, they're packing up. They're bringing their $1 million, enormous luxury homes. They're buying them here, and then they're going to move their businesses. I saw Ken Griffin from Citadel in New York this week say that exact same thing. He's doing it to Miami, but you don't think there aren't going to be extensions of people that are going to look at Miami and say, I'd rather go to Tampa, or people that start their business in Miami and then they're going to have a satellite office in Tampa? Of course there is. So my point is, generational buying opportunity, no different than right after Iran. The stock market just moves quicker and your timelines are tighter. The real estate trough is right now to be able to gain wealth, because what is coming, assuming a clean hurricane season like is predicted, what is coming is going to create appreciation. It's going to cause prices to rise. And the people that pass on buying right now because interest rates are too high, even though they could have afforded it, are going to look back and say, man, I could have bought this $600,000 house for $480, a year or two ago. And then I could have refinanced my, 6.5% interest rate to, 4.99 where it's at now. And I would have had a couple of years of a little bit of interest, but I would have made $100,000 in gain. Okay. Real estate gives you a longer trough, but it's still an emotional decision for a lot of people. And there are a lot of people sitting on the sidelines that quite frankly should not be. And again, there's always curveballs that could happen. But in my opinion, looking at all the data, seeing what happened with the pop in the stock market, seeing the discussion around interest rates, knowing there's going to be a new Fed chair, knowing Florida's going to, have massive property tax reform. Even if we don't see a full abolishment, we're going to see property taxes get decreased. And then what happens is those property tax decreases lowers people's payments to what interest rates were like when they were lower. People buy on payment. They don't buy on interest rate. The reason the interest rate matters is the payment. If property taxes get cut dramatically, those payments start to look comparable to what we saw during Unicorn Fairy Tale Fantasyland, which was during COVID. So I think there are buyers sitting on the fence right now that shouldn't be. We'd love the opportunity to help you if that's you. If you feel like you haven't gotten the right advice from an agent, if you feel like that you want to take advantage of the opportunity now because you see the writing on the wall, hit us up at theduncanduo.com. Go to any of our socials. Call or text us 813-359-8990. Going to be back after a quick break, continuing the conversation about the Tampa Bay real estate market.
And we're back with the Duncan Duo Radio Show. Tampa Bay's #1 real estate team. Over $3 billion in sales, thousands of happy clients, and official partners of the Lightning. Now your host, Andrew Duncan.
So we're back talking about Tampa real estate. I talked about this in the last segment about how I believe Tampa is a great buyer's market, but it won't be forever. And there was one additional thing that I didn't get to that I think is important about why I think now is kind of that trough and how I think there's so much upside to Tampa Bay real estate. And obviously, so many wealthy people moving here. It's like follow the money. If a lot of wealthy people are buying super expensive homes in Tampa Bay, they see it. They see the future. They have analysts on their payroll. They see stuff before the average person does. Okay, and so. The second thing that I'll say, though, is that in addition to the likelihood of appreciation, the market right now gives buyers an opportunity to negotiate that they don't have when the market upswings. People look at the prices and they think that's the whole picture, and they say, "Oh, well, if prices go from 500 to 600," but it's bigger than that because here's what happens in a buyer's market, which Tampa is kind of on the cusp of a buyer's market right now in a lot of neighborhoods. In a buyer's market, the buyer can say, "Hey, your $500,000 house, I want to pay $480, and I want you to pay, $20,000 of my closing costs, okay? And I want a longer inspection period, and then you can get more repairs covered." So what the MLS doesn't really show you all the time, and what Case Schiller and all these companies, when they say, "Oh, we're still operating at 98% list to sell price ratio," okay? That might be accurate, okay? But if you talk about the true dollar cost to a buyer and the true net to a seller, it's a bigger deal than that because the buyer is likely going to get concessions right now that they won't get in a hot market. So that could be an extra 3 or 4 percentage points in the buyer's favor that may not show up in the purchase price, but show up in the actual net numbers that come out of the buyer's pocket, which is really the only number that matters. The other number is a vanity number. It's a number you get to tell your friends about at happy hour. The vanity number doesn't matter. It's the number that actually comes out of your pocket. So in a market like today, which I think won't last forever, as a buyer, not only do you get to negotiate off the asking price in a lot of neighborhoods and situations, but you're going to get the seller to pay some of your concessions. Builders are paying more concessions and buying interest rates down, stuff they've never done before at this level. So if you understand that, that is not what you're going to get if the market, when the market starts pumping again. Okay. The seller is then going to get above asking. They're gonna not pay anything, and they're not gonna repair anything because they got 3 people behind you. Okay, you have such an incredible opportunity right now as a buyer to not only save money out of pocket, build equity, buy in at the right time, and benefit from what we believe will happen over the next few years with the new Fed chair and Florida, property tax changes. So that's the other point. Better negotiating power as a buyer in today's market right now. So we've been rolling out some really cool AI tools on our team. If you know somebody that's in real estate that's struggling, if that's you personally, if a friend or family member is a real estate agent not selling very much real estate, what I can tell you is that the cool things that we're doing that we've invested in at my company, it's an investment that not a lot of real estate brokers or their teams can or will take because they don't have the margins or they don't have the financial backing of 22 years of running a successful business. And so we're now rolling out these AI tools to help our agents. And a lot of times people will hear, oh, everyone's rolling out an AI tool. And they think AI is like Canva, or Chat GPT. That is like a large language model. Those things can help, but that requires you. What we're rolling out are actually teammates that are AI, that are intuitive. Our leads are being called and texted by intuitive AI that's able to read the notes, know what's going on, know what's up with the client's past history with us, know what's going on with their house, and have 5, 10, 20-minute conversations to build relationships and rapport, to ensure our agents' leads are communicated with, to ensure that leads that have been in my 200,000 person database for a decade get what they need when they're inquiring and curious or have a question. And it's pretty powerful. It is the next wave of leverage for real estate agents. When I hear teams are like, oh, we have all these ISAs. So that's how we help our agents. I'm going to call it right now. ISAs are dead. Okay. They're gone. In 6 months, real estate companies that are smart and savvy are going to move those people to the field. Okay, which is what we're going to do. We're going to train them how to be an agent. We're not getting rid of people. But those people are going to be repositioned and repurposed because AI answers 365, 24/7. It never has a bad day. It doesn't go through divorce. It doesn't have a health scare. It learns at a very fast clip. It is coachable. And truly the best leverage thing I've ever seen in real estate to be able to help real estate teams continue to serve their clients at a high level and help their agents be more productive. So that is what we're rolling out on our team. If you're someone that, like I said, that's a real estate agent struggling, you're somewhere where you're not doing a lot of production, you're somewhere where they're not rolling out AI tools that are talking to your leads and setting appointments for you, putting appointments on your calendar, okay? Or an AI in our world where somebody has a conversation or a text exchange with AI and asks questions. Now our system is now sending marketing messages to that consumer based on the conversation they have with the AI. So I'll give you an example. This past week, we had a customer inquiring about doing a 1031 exchange. They were texting with our AI asking about 1031 exchanges. And now the marketing messages that are being sent to that customer, and they're not really marketing messages, they're value-added messages, are information about 1031 exchanges and how to look at them and how to do them. Okay. Like it is a tactic that most sales organizations, one, aren't going to be able to afford, and two, aren't going to be able to roll out, or three, don't have a database to be able to roll it out to. So our business is going to thrive through what's happening with the AI revolution, and our agents are too. So if you're struggling, if you know someone that's struggling, if you know someone that's not happy, you know someone that's thinking about getting into the real estate business, whether that's you, whether that's your kid, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, send them to jointheduo.com. Tell them you need to talk to these people because they're rolling out AI that is going to be massively better than anyone else. And it's true. This new product that we're working with, we're one of 3 companies in the country. Let me repeat that. We're one of 3 companies in the country to be rolling out conversational AI and texting for our leads. And look, I know there's plenty of doomers out there that think that, that iRobot's going to show up or the Terminator's going to get here. And, look, maybe it does. Okay. Nothing we're going to do about it. So while I'm here, I'm going to think as optimistically as I can about how to benefit the agents that work for me and benefit the customers that need help, because we are training these people like employees to communicate and help customers get the information that they need. And the last thing I'll say about AI, and it's something I've learned over 22 years in this business, as well as an investor in a bunch of different tech companies, the number one thing that matters most to the customer is not knowledge. I'm going to repeat that. The number one thing that matters to most customers is not knowledge. It is expedience and responsiveness. And I'll give you a few examples. Go to Chick-fil-A. Look, Chick-fil-A is great. I love Chick-fil-A. I might even go get some tomorrow, okay? But, because I do go there a lot. But I'm not going there because it's incredible quality of food. I'm not going there for the knowledge I'm going for expedience, okay? I'm going for quickness. I'm going for responsiveness. I'm going to get a meal in 7 minutes, okay? That's what the consumer wants. The consumer wants responsiveness above everything else. And when you are a human being, you're going to be out showing houses as a real estate agent. You're going to be out on appointments. And you're going to naturally think that the customer needs all the knowledge in your brain. And if the customer needed all of the knowledge in your brain, Zillow wouldn't exist. Realtor.com wouldn't exist, okay? ChatGPT wouldn't exist. The customer wants answers and they want information quickly. So we are going to deliver that to them and help our agents win more. So again, hit us up at jointheduo.com if you want to be with a forward-thinking team that's rolling out AI at a faster clip than anyone else, that's growing, that has the ability to invest in these tools to help our agents win and win big, but also at the same time while serving clients and delivering to the client what they want most, which is responsiveness. Now, that doesn't mean my agents aren't going to talk to people, okay? AI is going to be able to serve them and give them some information. And then, of course, my agent's going to follow up with a call and have and explain that knowledge and that experience and that rapport building that AI doesn't have. But what I will say is that far too often, real estate customers get upset and go somewhere else because of that time delay before the agent can call them back. The consumer needs some sort of gratification that they've got a response, and then the expert can call them. And it's simply, like people want Amazon Prime. They do. They want Amazon Prime. They want to push button and have magic happen. And we have to deliver that to them. And I had an experience this week. I was reaching out to a law firm about an estate issue in another state and reached out to the first one and left a message, and hours went by, never heard back. Okay. I was instantly not wanting to work with them. The next firm that I communicated with had a text message and a text exchange, and I could tell it was AI, but I got communicated with, I got an appointment set, and then I got the expert on the phone. The first company, because of how poorly they handled it, never got the expert on the phone. So we want to help our agents get better, and we also want to prevent customers from going somewhere else because they need to be responded to. Now, that doesn't need to be the most intellectual, thought-out conversation ever from the AI tool. The AI needs to be able to set the appointment, have some preliminary dialogue, communicate with the person so they know the company's on top of it, so they know the company's got tools and resources to help them, and then the expert can get on the phone or go and show them or go meet them in person, okay? So that's how we're using AI. And again, if you're an agent, if you know someone that's struggling, if you know someone that got into the business that's tech savvy and hungry and not getting these at bats, we're getting 30 to 40 of them a day of people raising their hand and communicating with our AI and saying, hey, call me, or I want to talk, or I want to list my house. I want to buy a house. literally 30 to 40 a day. And we need more people to help with them. So if you're an agent, you're struggling, you haven't sold a lot of houses, or you know someone that's in that place and not getting the at-bats that they want, again, hit us up at jointheduo.com. We would love to talk to them. They can set an appointment directly with our team right from there. It goes onto our appointment calendar. We aren't using AI to communicate with agents as of yet. We're really directing it to customers. So you actually will get a live human being reaching out to you to schedule and coordinate something. So again, you can do that at jointheduo.com. Again, that is jointheduo.com. When we aren't on air, again, make sure to follow us on all of our socials. Always putting out relevant real estate info, putting out videos from the show. So if you miss a segment, we put the whole show on YouTube as well. So if you've ever missed a show and you want to catch up and you want to know what we talked about, or you heard something and you want to have someone else listen and you want to share and say, hey, they talked about this and, at such and such time during the show, you can go onto our YouTube. We put the entire video of every show on YouTube for you so you can share that with your friend or family member that's struggling in real estate, or friend or family member that wants to sell real estate and wants the most advanced AI forward-thinking company to help them. So again, at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and I say Twitter, X, same thing. Pretty much any social channel, we're on them. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to help you. And we'll be back wrapping up with our last segment after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show.
Back to the Duncan Duo Radio Show, hosted by Andrew Duncan, official real estate agents of the Tampa Bay Lightning and the team that guarantees your home sells with ease. Visit theduncanduo.com right now. Here's Andrew Duncan.
So back talking about the Tampa real estate market. I've always got some crazy stories to tell about the things that go on in Tampa Bay real estate. It's interesting, after 22 years, the number of stories I have is pretty powerful. But one specific thing that I want to share with people, and it hits home a little bit because, I've seen real estate agents get attacked. I've seen real estate agents get stalked. I've seen them get, creeper messages from people. But if you are a consumer and you want to meet with a real estate agent, okay, a good real estate agent or a good real estate team, there is a service that we use that allows us to look into your background, okay? It allows us to know if you've got a bunch of arrests and different things. It allows us to kind of confirm your identity. If you're not willing to share your ID, if you're not willing to work on talking to a lender so they can validate you're a real person and qualify you, that real estate agent has a fear that you might be intending to attack them, okay? So when they want to meet with you at a neutral location, or when they want to not meet with you at a vacant home on a Friday night, or when they want to meet with you at a neutral location, understand that there have been a lot of real estate agents attacked, a lot of, unfortunately, real estate agents murdered, raped. Everything you can think of, it has happened. Because there are people there are real estate agents that'll just jump out and meet with somebody. So now these tools are coming to real estate agents to allow us to kind of look into the customer a little bit so that we're confident the person isn't a killer or some mass criminal. We had one this week. The person had 120, let me repeat that, 120 criminal charges, and wanted our agent to meet them out at a property at 8:30 on a Wednesday night. It's a hard no. No home sale is worth someone's life. And if you as a customer don't understand that agent asking those qualification questions is doing it not because they're deciding whether they want to work with you, but they're deciding whether they want to wake up tomorrow, okay? They want to know that you're a legit real person, that you're not some psycho, that you're not a criminal. So if they ask you, hey, show me your driver's license, or can you send me your pre-approval? Those are steps and those are extra things, or meet me at my office or meet me at this Starbucks instead of at the random vacant house in the middle of nowhere. Okay. real estate agents need to protect themselves, and they're getting better about it. They're getting smarter. They're not just popping out and showing homes to people that aren't capable. But as a consumer, understand that those questions, don't be offended by those questions, okay? Those people want to go home to their family the next day. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of real estate agents that don't get to go home to their family because of some crazy situation. So I'm excited because having been in this business for 22 years, we now have these tools that can help protect real estate agents, but you still get the customers that push back, that don't want to share it. Well, I don't know if I want to send that to you yet. Do you know how much of a creeper you look like? If you're a dude calling a woman and wanting to see a house and you're not willing to share your information, do you know how much of a creeper you look like? Do you want to look like a creeper? Because you look like a creeper. If you're not willing to share some information, then what is the value proposition for a real estate agent who doesn't get paid unless you buy a house? Real estate agents aren't on salary, people. They're not making the money that most of you think that they make. The ones that do make a bunch of money, and look, I've done incredibly well. I've done it for 22 years. Okay. There are some, but the vast majority of them earn the median income. They're not making crazy money. Okay. So they're not on salary. They don't get a 401k. They don't get bonuses. Okay. They don't get paid hourly. They get paid if they help someone buy or sell a house. So they get paid on performance. They're not getting paid on a Thursday night or Friday night to go out and show you a house. They only get paid if you end up buying a house. And so part of their job in some ways is to determine if the juice is worth the squeeze. If you actually intend on buying or selling a home, if you actually have the ability to qualify to buy or sell a home, or if you're real, a legitimate person and not intending to scam or steal or harm them. So when they ask you those questions, I can tell you the people that push back, they're just not going to help you. Okay. You're going to look like a creeper, you just are. So if you are going to work with real estate agents, be transparent, tell them who you are, give them a little bit of information so they can look you up and know that you're not some serial killer. Okay. One other real estate scam I'm seeing a lot of right now. There are a lot of homes that are going on Craigslist or rental sites or even on Zillow, unfortunately, that are for sale. Okay. And so the home isn't actually for rent. It's a scammer that takes the pictures, puts it up and says that it's for rent, and then tries to scam people into putting up a deposit or putting up the first month rent when they're not the actual owner. They're not the actual real estate agent attached to the property. So if you see a property that's for rent, okay, and it looks too good to be true, it is. It's a scam. If it's a neighborhood where houses rent for $4,000 and they've got it up there for $1,800, okay, get out of here, man. No, nobody's renting their $4,000. No one's taking a $2,200 haircut because they like you. Far too often we get calls from people that are like, oh, this house, you guys had it on the market. We gave money to so-and-so for rent. It ain't for rent. We don't even know who this person is. That's not the owner. There's no property manager. So a couple of telltale tips. Again, if it looks too good to be true, it is. Pass on it. Don't go try and rent that house that's way underpriced, okay? They're trying to, get in and get out, get your money and vanish. Offering cash discounts, another really bad red flag. And then look up the property. In Florida, we have transparency. You can look up who owns a property. Look up and see if that's the owner, if that's the owner's name, if that's who money is going to be made payable to. And then secondarily, look up the real estate agent and don't hesitate. Call the listing agent. If it's up for sale, call them and say, hey, is this house for rent? If red flags get thrown up, don't try and rent that house. We've seen far too many people get duped. It's sad that people are scamming and doing that, but it is common. So if you're out there looking to rent a property and it looks too good to be true, it is. Look up who the owner is. Call the person that's selling the house as well. Do a Google search on the address. You can find out a lot of information online. And then, of course, notify the real estate agent and potentially notify the police as well. So hopefully that helps you avoid some scams in real estate, helps real estate agents avoid some scams as well, so that you know the reason they're asking you these qualifying questions because they want to go home to their family. They want to make sure you're not a psycho. So with that being said, have an awesome rest of your weekend, Tampa Bay. We'll see you next Sunday. Thanks for tuning in.